Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And yes, you knew this video was coming. This is it. This is the first great aggro deck from Spirit of Rebellion. I kind of call this the Jango Veers deck. This will be the deck to beat for a little while. If your deck loses to this deck, probably don't play that deck. This deck is pretty much everywhere and is going to continue to be everywhere for a while. So what makes Maz Poe the choice, the deck to go to right now? Well, what it does is it basically gives your opponent a really hard choice. What do? Every turn, you're able to basically roll Poe, then roll Maz, and resolve all Poe's dice. You get all 4 of your dice out in 2 actions, resolve 2 of them. Let's say both of Poe's are blanks. Maz rolls a focus. You get to take one of your resolutions to turn Poe to a special and then resolve it. So essentially, you're able to do a ton of damage every turn very reliably. That's what makes this aggro deck so good. Jango Veers had to roll damage, and because they had so many damage size, the odds of them rolling it were astronomical. Well, with Poe Maz, if they get their battlefield, the odds of them hitting 2 specials or a 3 plus a special is almost a certainty. So unless you have removal, this is going to happen. And what makes this especially potent, of course, is fast hands. Once you have fast hands on Poe, he's doing his trick. Hit and run allows him to do his trick. Basically, there's a bunch of ways to get Poe going. Now the question then becomes, well, who do I kill then? Obviously, I'll kill Maz to stop all the cheating. But if you kill Maz, what you're left with is a Poe with a fast hands doing a pile of damage. So I don't think you can actually do that. And so what ends up happening is Maz, for the whole time Poe is alive, is going to be a helper for him. And so I think the trick is to figure out for the Poe Maz player how to set up Maz in such a way where she doesn't just die impotently at the end. And we have some tricks in here for doing that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the deck. First of all, not surprising, we've got the Emperor's Throne Room. This is the battlefield that Poe wants to use. Claim, turn one of your dice to a side showing a special ability, then resolve that die. So, Poe's special says, chuck a card from your hand at your opponent and choose whatever side you want to do damage. So, basically, you just load up your deck. This deck has 10 cards for the purposes of chucking at my opponent's face. Poe rolls a blank, you claim, toss out the Falcon from your hand, do 4 damage to them. It's a very strong battlefield with this deck. Let's start with the damage cards then. So we have all of these really strong cards now that we can throw at our opponents. From the last set, we have the Falcon and Thermal Detonator, which were good, but being able to add to that Rocket Launcher and U-Wing becomes incredibly potent. Why this is so potent is now, between the U-Wing and the Thermal, you have 4 cards that hit multiple characters. So you either get 3 to everybody or 2 to everyone with U-Wing, and that is really, really potent to be able to knock down especially the really cool tri-character decks. You hit them with a Thermal and a U-Wing, it's practically game over at that point. All their guys are pretty much dead. Rocket Launcher is also especially potent because it has a 4-side in it, which is really cool. It also has the ability to also do 2 damage to different characters, and it also can discard a vehicle. So Rocket Launcher becomes this absurdly flexible card in this deck that just really makes Poe strong. I really like it. And I like the DL44 Heavy Blaster a lot as well because it lets you do cool stuff. This is probably the card I am least likely to just chuck at my opponent. I love playing this on Maz. What I like to do is go roll out Poe. He doesn't roll well. Then I just stick this on Maz, ambush, right? Take off one of their dice, roll Maz out. If this hits a 3, I resolve that. I resolve one of Maz's other dice, or maybe just resolve that 2 damage that was showing on Poe. It just becomes that card that once Poe dies, you still have around the Heavy Blaster Pistol and it's doing work for you, which I think is really important for the people that have picked up on the fact that you should kill Poe. I'm telling you, everyone kills Maz for some reason. I don't think that's right. I guess only time will tell whether I'm right or wrong on that one. And one of the cards that it's really interesting is Planetary Uprising. This card is either the game-winning card in the matchup or not good at all. So really what it comes down to is you have to gauge very early on how much money am I going to need in this matchup? Can I afford to pay the 2? Can I afford to take the action to do it? Is it going to be a very fast game? If the game's only going to go 3 turns, Uprising maybe doesn't have a value. But if it's going to go 5 turns and you can get out turn 1, it becomes insane. The places where it really shines are once Poe dies, your opponent's like, yes, I did it. I got Poe. Now what can they do? And you have a heavy blaster on Maz, and then you throw down a Planetary Uprising and then a second one. And you just go, roll Maz, resolve Maz's die, and the blaster pistol, next action, 4 damage from Planetary Uprising. That puts an insane amount of pressure on your opponent. What are they supposed to do? Are they really supposed to just claim every turn at the beginning of the turn? Because 2 turns of 4 damage a turn is basically game once we get to the end game. So I've had a lot of games where just that one Planetary Uprising wins me the game. I play it, I claim, that's 2. I know I've got 2 more coming, and that's game. If someone only needs 4 damage and you can get down a Planetary and claim, then it's game. And it puts so much pressure on them if you play that to be like, oh my goodness, I have to immediately claim, even if it's the first play of the turn. And then what are they can't come back. I view it as kind of like that Mind Probe on the Tusken Raider that makes Vader Raider so strong. Like you kill Vader, and you think, I'm okay, and then you look down and you realize, oh no, they've got this stupid Mind Probe on the Raider, and if they get lucky and hit it, they just discard a card and automatically resolve it. Uprising is really similar to that. It's not 4, but it could be 4, but it's at least 2. So I really like it. I know some people don't like it in the deck. I think that's a mistake. I think there's just too many matchups where it is so powerful it's ridiculous. You will have to figure out like which matchup does it work, which matchup does it not work. I would say something like when you're playing against Rey, it often doesn't work, but I actually won a game with it against Rey. I feel like it's a pro player card, and what I mean by that is you just really have to feel out the situation and play each game a little differently and know the matchup, but then see how the matchup goes. And if you can play it right, I think Uprising is amazing. Let's take a look at then the supporty cards that make this deck amazing. Fast Hands is really what has pushed this deck to the upper echelons. After you activate attached character, you may resolve one of its character dice or upgrade dice. So you put this on Poe, the whole rest of the game you get to roll Poe out, resolve one of his dice, then roll Maz if she hits the focus, resolve his other die. Or just roll Poe out, resolve a die, immediately claim if you really wanted to do that. It's just crazy. It's really just crazy how much damage you get to do. Hit and run, similar. I already talked about this. This card just becomes incredibly powerful when you think about that interaction of, activate Poe, you get another action, you use that to activate Maz, and now you get to resolve the best 2 dice that are showing. That's really strong. C-3PO looks weird in this deck. I know, you're like, wait, I don't understand. I've got Fast Hands, I'm resolving one of Poe's dice, and then I'm claiming with the other one anyway. I don't need 3PO. No, you don't. You don't need 3PO. I think this deck could get away with it. But you know what? 3PO is busted. He's the best card in Spirit of Rebellion outside of maybe Fast Hands. He's just really good, and he does a lot of interesting things for you. Let's say you get a spot where you only have Maz left. You can start flipping Maz to damage. Maybe you get in a spot where Poe dies kind of early. You end up having to play things like a Falcon, where you can't just use the claim ability. You want to be able to turn to damage sides. It's just, he gives you a lot of flexibility. The same thing with Poe. Maybe there's a side on him you can't hit. Maybe the unthinkable happens, and your battlefield is not showing. 3PO is really awesome in that scenario. So there's a lot of games where I don't play 3PO, and he just gets discarded. But, boy, there's games where he has an absolutely critical role. He's slow, though, which is really weird with Poe Maz, right? It's a super fast deck, and then you have this really slow ability where you have to roll him out and then use his action But boy, when he's useful, he's useful. And New Orders is great in this deck. I think you want to either have one of these or one hyperspace jump, and you might just want two, to be honest. It's so good. But for two, you basically get to out of nowhere claim, or get the claim effect on Poe. And you can even do this, you know, if you're it's like it's out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll do it, and you just switch the battlefield and do 3 damage with Poe. They're not seeing it coming. They think they're okay. You can just kind of think of this as like a damage spell. It's a 2-cost, 2-card spell that's going to do 3 damage and then set you up to have your battlefield. So I think it's really strong. This is one of the slots that I wouldn't mind bumping to 2. All right, let's take a look at the removal then. Removal options are, I mean, defensive position is really good theoretically. You're often going to be claiming first, so it's often online. The problem is, defensive position doesn't hit as much as it used to. It's really great if your opponent rolls badly followed by a good roll, but if their first roll is good, they're probably rolling it out with a Vibro Hands Ray. They're probably having a Fast Hands on their guy. Like, it's just not that common anymore, where it's like, Vader rolls out his dice, it's 2 3s, and you go, oh, get rid of those suckers. But I still have found value in it. A lot less value, but it's still good. Electroshock, it's still great. It's a really good card. Loth Cat and Mouse is my new favorite removal, other than, you know, he doesn't like you. The problem with Loth Cat in this particular deck is you can't give up Poe's dice, period. Like, you just can't. So it's a situation where, like, if you roll Poe first, because you have to roll Poe before Maz to be able to do the trick, and then they roll big damage, now what? Like, you can't roll Maz and then do Loth Cat unless you have a hit and run scenario. So I found more and more that, yeah, there's spots where this card is still amazing, but it's a lot less good, because anytime Poe's die is sitting there, you don't want to play it. So it's a really iffy card. I could see it going down to 0. I had it at 2. I could see that going to 0. Friends in Low Places is really strong also, because especially early game before you get Fast Hands set up on Poe, it can be really useful to just throw this out there first, get rid of the removal that they would have had to handle Poe. Now you know you can roll him out safely, followed by Maz's trick, and you know everything they have coming. It's a really strong card. I like it a lot. I think it's going to find a spot in most yellow decks. Just the information is powerful, and pulling off, you know, their removals is crazy good. All right, I also have 2 Dug-Ins in the deck and 2 Field Medics for some sort of health gain. I gotta say, Dug-In. Oh, Dug-In's such a bad card now. Like, this card is amazing, right? We all know it's amazing. But Vibro Knife really, really hurts this card, and a lot of decks are running Vibro Knife. I mean, I'd even go so far as to say if your meta is overrun with Vibro Knives, you just pull it. You just pull it and say, whatever. But if it's not, it's still a great card. Just chucking out 3 shields can be real surprising. Field Medic, of course, is amazing. They get close to Poe. He's almost dead. You Field Medic him, and then you claim. And then the next turn, you can just claim right away. You know, roll him out and then claim right away if you need to. It often can buy you that one more roll with Poe, especially if you have Fast Hands on a guy. One more roll is so insane, because Fast Hands let you immediately do it before they can handle it. So Field Medic's value, I think, just goes up and up in this set. Alright, so that's the deck. I'm going to go ahead and pop the list up here. There we go. And we're talking about all kinds of stuff on Patreon, Tiny Grimes, if you want to join the chatter. And I'm going to have a couple games now. These are not the highest level gameplay. They're pretty much one-sided blowouts. This happens a lot with Poe Maz. And you can go ahead and get a feel for how the deck plays. and enjoy the videos, or enjoy the gameplay, and I hope you enjoy the video.